Alright, Pretend here, and today I'm here with more of a different kind of video. Today we're going to be looking at Prydwen, or Prydwen, however you want to say it. I call it Prydwen. I'm sure it's probably called Prydwen, but I'm just going to say Prydwen because that's what I've been saying. We're going to be looking at the tier list for each mode. If you guys don't know what Prydwen is, great site. They have details on the kits of all characters. They have builds and recommendations along with calculations, and then they have tier lists and stuff listed that you can check out. Really nice and helpful site you can use. And they obviously have a tier list section for each endgame mode, and today we're going to be looking at it. So I do want to have a disclaimer, tier lists are obviously different for everyone. I never recommend going off a tier list. It's the whole reason I kind of don't make my own tier list, because everyone has their own opinions. And so I do not really recommend using tier lists to set in stone who you should build. You can use it as a general idea on how good a unit can be, because usually when a unit is placed around a certain area, everyone has it fluctuated in the area. So if someone is in tier, let's say 1, some might put them in 0.5, but you could kind of get the idea where they'd be. So nothing is super definitive. There's only certain things that are super definitive in the game, such as, I know it's gonna make me sound biased saying this, but Aventurine being the best sustain, and then stuff like Robin and Rod maybe the top harmony supports. That kind of stuff is something you can kind of see, and they should always be in the highest tier. But then there's other characters like Dr. Ratio, where can he go, Yunli, where can she go, 4-star characters, all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna be taking a look at it. Before I get to the video, drop a like, drop a sub, hit the bell icon for more videos like this, and if you don't hit sub, you're gonna lose your next 50-50. Anyway, let's get into it. So first, we're gonna be starting it off with the Memory of Chaos section. Every 4-star is going to be shown at E6, and we're gonna be going from the top down. So as we do see here, we do have Acheron and Feixiao at the top of DPS. This is, as you see, separated as in like DPS, specialist as so like break characters or debuffers, amplifiers as harmony supports, and sustain as sustain. So I definitely do agree with literally every placing here. Acheron obviously being crazy. The eye means watch to be going down, which is kind of crazy. I don't think she is kind of being eyed to go down. She's still broken. Feixiao absolutely rolls us. Firefly is always good on this. And then we have, as I mentioned, the two always at the top. Aventurine being at tier 0, and then Huo being really good as well. T0 definitely do agree with every placing here. 0.5 also looking very good. I know previously they didn't have Yunli placed up too far. They had her at like tier 1, but I always thought she'd be at least 0.5. And I'm glad they actually moved her up for that, because again, she's so good. It's just people sleep on her for being a Clara replacement. Like, yes, she is a better Clara, but she's so much better to the point it's actually unreal, and her damage is insane, and I definitely think she should have been in 0.5. Boot Hill, yeah, no shocker. Memory of Chaos is going to be really good. And then going over these supports, we have Harmony Trailblazer, which makes any break unit do insane damage. Can't turn anyone into a break DPS as well. Sparkle, Hyper Carry, insane. And then the sustains, Gallagher, yeah, I can agree with him being at E6 and being up here. Very nice sustain to use, especially in these modes now, and especially with the break meta. And then Fushbon, I definitely would put her down personally like this. Not saying down here, I still agree with the 0.5 placing, but I definitely do not think she can bring as much value as these two anymore. Don't get me wrong, Fushbon is still really good, but I definitely think that when there's a bigger hit or some annoying stuff, it can get a bit difficult for her. She still sustains perfectly fine, but I definitely think that these two provide a lot more, with the Huo giving a bunch of energy and attack percent. Eventually making your team literally immortal. Fushbon can make your team immortal as well, but yeah, so this is the kind of thing that I said earlier. You can sort of agree or to disagree, and you can put Fushbon up here if you really want. Me personally, I agree with the 0.5 placing, but other people will want on tier 0. That's why it's really hard to rank these tier lists. Scrolling down, as we do see the meta characters, so these characters are still very good, but they're obviously not like the apex characters that set them apart. So the DPSs, yeah, these two, they had their reign, but they're definitely sort of going down, especially with buffs and MOC not really favoring them, neither of them being follow-up attack or dot. Just kind of pure DPS, so they are sort of going down. Clara going up for this MOC is agreeable as well. Isn't as good as Yunli, but she still does benefit for the same reasons. Dot team, yeah, dot team in this one isn't going to be doing too good. I still think I would put Kafka to 0.5 just for being the dot enabler, and also just having the follow-up attack and being able to do other stuff, and also being able to technically be ran on the Acheron team. Same with Black Swan, to be fair. So I honestly think they could still belong in 0.5. But this is more of an overall thing, so if you look at specifically dot, then yeah, you can probably like put them even down here right now. They still can do the job, but yeah. March, still really good unit. Nothing wrong with putting her there. Eventually, I could see her even going up in the future. Jiaoqiu being in tier 1 is agreeable as well. He doesn't have too many uses outside of Acheron, but he still is workable on other teams. And then all this. Seeing Luocha down here when he used to be up there is so sad. But even though he doesn't really provide much compared to what these 4 can do, the actual healing he provides and being SP friendly is super good. So tier 1 is definitely a nice place. Some can argue to put him down to 1.5 now, considering he's just not too crazy. Actual 1.5, having Zele down here, yeah, a proper Zele could still zero cycle and stuff. She's still really good, so you can honestly argue. I personally think I would put her in tier 1. This is obviously not an MOC tailored towards her, which I should mention. This is also looking towards what the current MOC is and what buffs. This updates every patch for every mode, or every actual reset for the mode. And I didn't even mention Mo's, but yeah, Mo's being down here, I agree as well. I definitely think he is around the same priority as March. Some people were saying he would be around the same tier as Topaz at E6 especially, which I don't personally agree with. I definitely think these kind of split is very much warranted. But yeah, I do not agree with having Bronya down here. I definitely think she still has a bunch of uses and definitely is at least good to put in tier 1. I do think the gap between her and Sparkle, especially now, is really good. But if someone like Harmony Trailblazer, which is only mainly used in something like break teams, because elsewhere you still can do break other units, but it's usually not the optimal one. I think Bronya, for the specific reason that she's still better than Sparkle in break teams, can at least put her in tier 1. But even then, outside of break teams and where any team you can use her on, it's a bit difficult to manage skill points, but she's still definitely really good. So I honestly would put her in tier 1. Payla, especially as a debuffer as well, I would also put her in tier 1. That defense shred she can do is just so valuable. Same with Silverwolf. I can see her value just going down, but I don't know if I'd put her in 1.5 yet, because she still just has the uses. Obviously there's better options for teams like Acheron and such, but with the whole weakness implant, there is like weakness ignoring and break meta, so she isn't too valuable. But for people who want to use her, I definitely still can see her in tier 1 at least. And then Lynx being down here, yeah, I can see it. Honestly, higher than I thought she'd be. Personally, I don't like using her too much, because unless you don't really have any other options, you won't really ever use her. 0.1 is a lot higher than I thought it would be, but I could see it. And then usually going down here is the parts where it can be a little iffy, but most of the placements make sense. Like practically for this whole DPS section, I do agree with it. Blade, although he can do his job, it's still the fact that he's extremely weak now. Just cannot keep up with the amount of HP enemies are having now, and his DPS output isn't too great. Himiko, honestly, might be the only character I don't agree with being this. I honestly think she can go down a niche, honestly. It is a fall protect meta, so she still can be used, and especially with Super Break Himiko, but around this placement, this will be something where I do like 2.5, honestly. And then I don't have anything to say about the rest of these. Asta, kind of can see her being up in 1.5 because of the big speed buff, and especially with how many people can use it for funny stuff. But tier 2 is still very fair. Jumper being down here makes sense. And then down to niche characters, tier 3 for our Jet D is a little bit too low in my opinion. And honestly, let's just go to the forgotten ones as well. I'm not even gonna bother talking about this because this all makes sense. But our Jet D I think is too low. Same with Jade. I think she can go up 1. I know her at E0 is a lot harder to use, but she still does the fall protect. She still does have synergy with other characters, and I feel like she can at least go up a tier. But again, that's just me being nitpicky. Once again, this applies to the thing I said where everyone has different opinions. So I think Jade and Argenti can go higher in these modes. You might not. Prydwen clearly doesn't either. It's just how it is. But this is the most used tier list, so that's why I'm looking over to specifically this one, because this is the one that most people know about. But yeah, Sampo being down here makes sense. Welt being down here makes sense, unfortunately. Especially with the debuffers we're getting now, he's seeing less and less use. He had the big ult vulnerability thing, but that part is sort of being forgotten. Hania, yeah, not really much use for anything either. Bailu honestly could go down. March could honestly go down in my opinion as well. Natasha, same. Yukong can honestly go down in my opinion as well, because just who uses Yukong? Misha too can go down. Serval I could see being at least here. There's not really much point to nitpick anything past tier 4, because yeah, you can kind of see what these units perform at. Like again, Misha, lol, Susheng, lol, Yukong, who's using that, stuff like March, and then down here, Yanqing, E0. Hurts me to see it because he's so good in the story, but yeah. Yeah, that's the MOC tier list. For the most part, I believe that they cooked. Again, you can kind of tell that most of it is just me being a little bit nitpicky, which applies to everyone. Someone might want to move others. Like I was saying, move Bronya up, but some people would argue to keep her here. Some people might even want to put someone like March up into tier 0.5. It's just the life of tier list. For the Pure Fiction tab, so this one is a lot harder to argue, honestly. So if you look at tier 0, Herda Himiko, that's practically never changing. It looks like Himiko is maybe going down 1, but honestly, just because she goes from tier 0 to tier 0.5, that doesn't really mean much. Jade, yeah, Pure Fiction Queen, and then the Harmony supports Ron May, Robin, gonna be best in every mode. Aventurine, once again, best sustain. 0.5, making sense too. Argenti practically is said to only be used in this mode, but I still think he can be used elsewhere. Acheron, obviously trending through the mode she's in. Yunli is really good here as well. Dot characters are also really good. This one isn't really a dot-based purification from what I remember, but still can be used, so I can definitely see them going down as it's being eyeballed. Jiaoqiu really good too, especially for the constant applications that you can do, and especially when you combine them with something like solitary healing. Sustains, Buchuan, Gallagher, Wolf, all being around that, because with Aventurine you really just don't have to remember to do anything here. Then we go down to meta. As we do take a look at Clara being here, as she's able to hit a lot, it makes sense that she's a tier 1. These supports and debuffers here make sense as well. Luotra just permanently stuck in tier 1, I guess. 1.5, yeah, it's mainly, like, as you see, 2 single target characters. Jingwan, while he is pure AoE and is able to nuke with Lightning Lord, it's just the fact that his Lightning Lord is pretty slow, so I can definitely see him being down here. Blade, he does have the blast, but he, once again, cannot hit too hard. Firefly, I know she doesn't perform too well in Purification as opposed to others, but I still feel like she can honestly go in tier 1, especially from watching and trying it out. I definitely do think she can at least go into tier 1, but again, nitpicky stuff. March, yeah, more of a single target support thing. Same with Topaz, more of a single target debuffer, not much needed. Hanya being up at tier 1.5 is surprising. Honestly, I'd put her down to even like knock her down 2 tiers, honestly, because who's really doing that in my opinion? Harmony Trailblazer, yeah, not as much value because the break characters are not really used here, because Boohill's single target and single target imperfection is really a dead sentence. Another nitpick I have is I feel like Feixiao can at least go into tier 1. She is AoE, but she's able to attack a lot. All attack procs a lot with the enemies not being too strong on the side, being able to do that. Any elite enemy, she just nukes with her ultimate, but again, she's still single target in the end. So it is a bit tricky to deal with that, but again, nitpicks. And then going even further down, yeah, Jinglu, she does have the AoE, so that's helpful, but outside of that, not too much. Sustain-wise, Lynx being there, yeah, specialist, technically they'd be putting a sustain for the Fire Trailblazer, but yeah. And then even more niche characters, QQ, like everyone here you can kind of tell. Doctor Ratio is too much of a single target to be put in. QQ, SPM friendly, blow to that, not too much damage. Cerebral, not much of a use. Dawning is also hard to manage. Everyone here, yeah, Mo's being new, not being able to be too good in this, because Topaz herself is not too crazy in this, but she still is the best debuffer for follow-up attacks, but still can't do much. And then the rest, yeah, Jiaoqiu, never really too good. All these characters, I think, for the most part, I do agree with the rest. Seeing Bruno Diner is so heartbreaking, but he is a break single target boss nuker, so you can't really do much about that. But the rest, honestly, I can agree with everything else. And then taking a look at Apocalyptic Shadows. So tier 0, obviously Feixiao being so broken for single target, she's gonna be great. Boothill, Firefly, no surprise. Boothill break absolutely destroys the boss. Firefly just brain dead nukes everything as well. Robin being in tier 0.5, which is the one thing I do not agree with. I still think she's tier 0 for this, especially with Feixiao now being out. Follow-up attacks being broken in this mode anyways. I don't think I'd put her down to 0.5. She's nowhere. And she's just usable in every team except Break. I know Break is super prevalent in this, and you can kind of argue that for breaking it down, but that's another character I would put in tier 0, no questions asked. With Breaks being so prevalent, Gallagher being in tier 0 also isn't very, very fair. And then Aventurine's always in tier 0, so yeah. Acheron once again just being good in every mode, and then Dr. Ratio also being in 0.5 because this is single target and follow-up attack based. Really, really nice. And then March also being in tier 0.5 because it is a single target thing. Follow-up attacks, focus one down, break it. She's able to do both. Very, very good. And then Topaz as well, being able to debuff. And then Silverwolf also being all the way up here thanks to the implant and the whole break stuff that she can also do with the debuffs. Definitely can't agree with her being this high. Same with the sustains, not much changes there. Very good. But yeah, my whole nitpick thing is that Robin is not in tier 0 for this because Robin is just broken. I think in every mode she should be in tier 0. Scrolling down here, as we do see other characters that can, yep, I can agree with this. Personally, another nitpick is I put Yunli up one because she was easily able to deal with this. Oh, by the way, this is not for the new one, I don't think. This is for the one we just had, so this was a bit outdated, but usually the changes aren't too drastic. So you'd see some stuff like maybe the dock character's going up one because there's that. Same with Jinglu, she might go up one. That kind of stuff. Might even make a video on when it is updated. But as we see, the dock characters for the last one wasn't too crazy. Mo's is not too different from Topaz for this, but still in tier 1 because he's not as providing as these two. And then the whole tier 1 for the amplifiers, or I guess debuffers or Harvey supports can be fine. Less of a need for the hyper carry for Brodeo Sparkle, so I can definitely see them not being into something like tier 0.5. Lotra, once again, just stuck in tier 1, just all that healing he provides. And yeah, down here makes sense for all these. LA also just stuck in 1.5 for everything. Susheng being that high is surprising to me, but I don't even think I'm going to try to argue that because I don't know too much about Susheng to say otherwise. I think Tigyu can go up one. I know it is sort of a thing where it's mainly characters that don't really need an energy buff, but there are still characters that use it a bunch. Practically any character that is not Firefly, Acheron, and Feixiao now can use it, so I definitely think you can still put her up to tier 1. Tier 2, yeah, for the most part, even though I love using Jade and such, but even at E1, she isn't too crazy in this mode, especially when they don't have quantum weakness, so it's like, eh. Rest, yeah, you can kind of make sense with it. I think maybe Clara can go up to 1.5, but that's about it. And then niche characters and forgotten ones, yeah, again, this is usually the same in every mode, you don't really have to remember. Then Go Yaching is not in tier 5 for this, whoa! But yeah, you can kind of tell. And so yeah, that is the whole tier stuff for this. I do plan on probably making this a thing where we look at the updates and such, just to sort of have more in-depth talks about the meta and such and see how it may be shifting. So again, once again, I do just gotta reiterate this, is that the whole thing with tier list is it's changing for everyone. Every different person has a different spot they want to put it. Some people might even be saying Acheron isn't performing as hot anymore as opposed to the other top DPSs, which I don't agree with. I still think she's easily tier 0. Some might argue that someone like Fushuan is still tier 0 alongside Aventurine and such, so they might argue that, while someone like me and Prydwen would agree that they are in 0.5. It's just how tier list works, so nothing is super factual. The only real thing that mostly is agreed on is mainly Aventurine, Robin, and Rod May just being at the top, and then DPS wise for the most part is something like these three literally just being at the top, and that's like practically the only thing that's universally agreed on right now. Obviously that is also going to change in the future, but for now that's the only universally thing agreed upon. Usually there's always one or two universally agreed upon things, but for the most part everything else is very, again, you saw me nitpicking a lot, but that's just how it is for me. Some others might nitpick some other things, like some might say Moe's might be up here in 0.5 with Topaz, same with March, etc, etc. It's just kind of how it is. But I hope you guys found this video enjoyable. Let me know if you guys agree with tier lists and such, because they do have this. I will have the link in the description if you want to check out the tier list as well. And yep, peace out.